My name is Michael Owen, and in this video I will be explaining my final project for Dr. Lee's COMPSCI 412 class at UWW. For this project, I built and coded a Adreno joystick to run on a Super Mario 64 emulator on my PC. I'll start by explaining the circuit here. This is it. We've got the board and a joystick here. We'll start with the board. So this is an Adreno Leonardo board. There is a library that's required for this project, keyboard.h, that I found some boards do not support. This board, however, does. So then let's take a look at our pins on the back side here. On the very left, we have our 5 volts. That's going to be our power. Then moving right, we have ground, analog input 0, and analog input 1. And then on the back side, I used digital pin 2. Now that's all connected to this joystick. This is a joystick from the L-Glue R3 Super Starter Kit. It's just standard in the kit. And those jumper cables are connected to the stick here. We'll start with the top. That is our ground wire. Then moving down, we have our 5 volts or our power. And then we have our x-axis input connected to analog pin 0 on the board. Below that, our y-axis input connected to analog pin 1 on the board. And then that very last cable is connected to digital pin 2. That is our switch input. That is the sketch or the circuit. Now let's take a look at the code that I have here. So this is the entire code. It's pretty simple. I start by defining analog pin 0 as our x-axis input, then define analog pin 1 as our y-axis input. Then below that, I have include keyboard.h. That's the library that I was talking about earlier. Then in our setup, I just call keyboard.begin. That emulates a keyboard connected to my computer. So what it does is it takes the joystick and it treats it like it's a keyboard plugged into my computer. This whole program works by simulating key presses on the keyboard. So it takes input from the joystick here, and based on the input, it simulates a key press as if we were pressing a key on the keyboard. So this statement is required for this all to work. Then in our loop, I declare 2 variables. This first one, x value equals analog read joy x y, or excuse me, joy x. Int x equals analog read joy x. That is this is reading our x-axis input, and it's storing it in this variable x value. Then below we have a similar statement, y value equals analog read joy y. That is taking our y-axis input and storing it in this variable here. And then below, I call it to a function, display input. That is the function that handles our input. I pass in our variables here. Then on the very bottom of the loop, I've got delay 1 in there. That is, I believe, 1 times 10 to the 4th milliseconds. I believe that's the delay. Then on the very bottom, this is the function that handles our input. So it has 2 parameters, x and y. And this first statement here is if x is equal to 504 or y is equal to 510, then keyboard.release, and then it releases all these keys. So what that means, I found doing some research and testing the joystick a little bit that 504 and 510 seem to be the center values on the joystick. I ran some tests printing out the input locations to a serial monitor, and it seemed that 504, 510 was the center. So if the joystick is at center, then we want a keyboard.release all these keys. So if it's at center, let go of any keys that are being pressed. Then below that we have our else statement. The first line is if x is greater than 504, or if we are pulling left on the joystick, Then we want to key left arrow. So what that's doing there is if this joystick is pulled left, if the value that the board is reading is greater than 504, then it is simulating a keyboard press. It's actually simulating if we were to press and hold this this left arrow key. Then below that, else if X is less than 504, keyboard.press key right, or if the joystick is pushed right, then simulate a right arrow keyboard press. Then below that, we have another if statement. If Y is greater than 510, keyboard.press key up arrow. So if we're pushing up on the joystick, simulate an up arrow key press. And then else if Y is less than 510, keyboard.press key down arrow. So if the joystick's being pulled or pushed down, then simulate a down arrow key press. That is the code in its entirety. That's all we need for this to work. Now let's take a look. Let's do a little demo of how it operates. Nope. Looks like Mario got stuck. Oh, there we go. Got up. But that is it. That is all you need to build your own joystick and run it on an emulator on your computer. Thank you for watching, and I hope you got some information out of this.